You're listening to Comic Reflections, episode 222. I'm your host, Nicholas Prom.
And I'm Jeff Barnard, the hot-headed member of the team who is constantly starting arguments and leaving in a huff. For a minute and a half.
Very good.
Yeah. Oh, I stole that from the Marx Brothers.
Well, that's a good place to steal from.
Mm-hmm, indeed.
Comic Reflections is brought to you by The Outhouse. You can find our show and other cool content at theouthousers.com. And if you enjoy the show, please subscribe to us on either iTunes or Stitcher. And it'd be really great if you left us if you rated and reviewed us on iTunes.
Yep, it would be.
Yeah. We know you won't. No.
Yeah.
No.
So
maybe we'll guilt trip them into it.
Yeah,
see. Okay.
maybe.
So
never works.
One show that I want to mention again that I think is appropriate because we're going to talk about the Fantastic Four again. Is the Fantasticast. Is this British podcast, and they're going in chronological order, doing all the Fantastic Four, and it's very funny. I recommend it.
All right.
So, but let's begin. We're going to talk about Fantastic Four number 4, cover dated May of 1962. Cover art penciled by Jack Kirby and inked by Saul Brodsky, and we have this very dramatic image of the Submariner carrying Sue Storm. And being chased by the Fantastic Four. It's really cool.
Mm-hmm. All right, this issue brings the Submariner back. And I just thought of this. Why? In comic books, they love bringing back old characters.
Yeah.
I wonder because they're already copyrighted or something.
I think that the idea was, well, it's easy. For one, it's easier to bring back an old character that had a following than to come up with something new.
Yeah.
But
right, we're talking about a following that was 20 years ago. And at this time, the mass audience over these comics were, teenagers and below. And
okay. But I think it's something fresh. There's like they may have heard of the Submariner, but those comics are long gone, of course. So the idea of bringing him back is like, well, we'll see if people like it. See how they like the Submariner in the Atomic Age. It's part laziness and part just throwing stuff at the wall and see what sticks.
Yeah.
I wish Marvel would have dug deeper and brought back more of their Golden Age heroes in the 60s. Characters like the Blazing Skull or the. Now I'm going to draw some blank. I'm very tired today, but
okay.
But there were quite a few of them. Mm-hmm. The Blazing Skull is my favorite of their characters. They didn't bring back for a very long time, but. But they had a whole slew of characters in the 40s.
Yeah.
So,
but this is a theme even I can understand today because now people are adults who mainly read comics.
Yeah.
So they want to read something from their youth. But there's I wonder how many of the readers of this time this came out actually heard of the Submariner. That'd be interesting to know.
I don't know.
They have as we see. They explain who the Submariner is in this a comic.
Yeah.
Yeah. In a clumsy way, I thought. But, oh well. Okay. Let's get started.
You have complaints? I'm shocked.
Oh, yeah.
But anyway, the story in this issue is called The Coming of the Submariner. Written by Stan Lee. Penciled by Jack Kirby and inked by Saul Brodsky.
Yeah. And that's great. So, all right, the Torch has gone to an argument again in the last issue and has run off. So the rest of the Fantastic Four must find him. And we get a little recap of what's happened before.
Right, within the previous issue they fought the Miracle Man, and it was really showing how Johnny burned up the big monster all by himself and everything. But I think it's interesting when they're on their hunt for they're searching for Johnny. It's so clumsy.
Yes. Okay.
First of all, this is someone they know,
right?
So they ought to have a general idea where to look. First of all, and then go ahead.
Well, they kind of do. So we see Sue, and she says, "I'll be able to." She goes to a neighborhood that he haunts, and which is clever, I guess. And then she turns invisible because it'll help her look. Why would being invisible help?
And it's not like he's somebody that's on the lam or or her invisibility is going to help her sneak around.
Is she going to go in people's houses?
If you're looking for somebody and they're not like wanted by the police or something, or turning invisible to look for somebody is like a super villainy kind of thing, not a superhero kind of thing.
Yeah,
You know
unless
what I mean?
you're going
It's
after a super villain.
well, right, but like turning invisible to like commit a crime makes one thing, but to find somebody who hasn't done anything is kind of weird.
And plus, all right, Sue Storm is walking around visible.
Yeah.
And someone says, hey, it's Sue Storm. Hey, I just saw your brother down the street. You know,
Yeah.
that'd be more likely to happen than...
Right, but she's going to turn invisible and drink a soda and freak somebody out.
Yeah.
Which is, it's just an excuse to have a funny panel.
Right.
And there's another example of this. Reed Richards plucks a guy right off a motorcycle to ask him if he's seen anybody. Instead of, like, stop flagging somebody down and asking.
Yeah. So, and the guy's not even angry that he's probably lost his motorcycle.
Right.
Yeah, you know, motorcyclists are very protective of their motorcycles.
Yeah.
They're fragile and they're
Yeah.
expensive. So,
Yeah, it's nuts. So,
all right.
anyway, Johnny is going at the hot rod garage, of course.
Yeah, and I think it's ironic, but if Fantastic Four had somebody working on cars today, it'd be Reed.
Because he got all the computers in him now, you would need a super scientist.
Yeah, it's kind of and that's true. It's an old car. The era of the shade tree mechanic is over.
Right. One thing I think is interesting, Johnny's working in the garage, you know, and he's going to demonstrate how he can light up his finger and then weld. Mm-hmm. But he's wearing welding goggles to protect his eyes. Wouldn't he be immune to his own powers?
Ooh,
Like, why would you need that?
maybe not. Maybe because it just look cool, or maybe because if you're going to welding flame and he can change his flame to other things, that it'll hurt your eyes.
But the brightness of his own power shouldn't hurt his eyes. If he's can burst into flame and he's not burning in agony.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or suffocating because all the oxygen around him is getting burned up.
Right.
So,
Yeah. So the Thing knows where he's at, or he has a good idea.
of course he busts into the garage, throws the hot rod around.
Yeah. And he just comes in and does thingly things and busts the place up, and it's pretty cool. And he throws a car around, which is cool, and then all this, and all of a sudden, I'm not sure why, he changes back into Ben Grimm.
Yeah, and this is the second time he randomly changes back to Ben Grimm. It's just a chance to eat up a page.
You
Comics.
know, but it works, and I'm not sure why, but I think the Thing is the most poignant character in comics.
Yeah.
I get tired of Super Spider-Man and all the other characters getting all emo, but I like it when the Thing does it, and I'm not sure why, but it's really super sad when he turns back into the Thing, and it works in a very good emotional manner. I don't know why. I don't know, but I like it. So
Yeah. And one thing I want to mention, you brought up in some other episodes, we talked about how we got to talk about Cap being sad about Bucky every time, or Spider-Man, he's got all those troubles. They have to do it in every issue, and it's usually in the first few pages because it's the idea of if you've never read another one before, you can read this and you know exactly what this character's all about, all the feelings and stuff. So it's the repetition can grate on you,
yeah.
but
And also, we're reading this. Bing, 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 bing. If you read it
after another.
if you read one a month, it'd be different.
right.
So it's
Or
not fair to
every
the comics.
Or every 60 days, it would be like, oh yeah, it pulls you right back in. But but since we read like 3 or 4 issues in a row in one sitting, it seems a bit tedious.
Yeah.
But there's a purpose and a rhythm to it, and there's a reason. So.
Yeah. You lent me a bunch of comics and new ones, and some of them I liked, some of them I didn't, but a lot of times I had vast troubles following what's going on.
Right, because it's like if you haven't been reading comics for the last 10, 20 years, you're lost.
Yeah, all these new ones. Yeah.
Or you haven't been, reading everything that the line puts out. And that's the trouble with modern comics, especially, superhero comics, is if you haven't kept up with all the ins and outs of what's going on, you're totally lost. Where is the the easy entrance point for a new audience. It's nowhere. And it used to be you could hop right in at any issue ever.
Yeah.
And that was part of the beauty of comics. But now it's such a closed-off audience, at least for these long-standing properties.
Yes.
It's very difficult.
Yeah, and you want to get new people into it, but you don't want to bore the veterans. So they're in a catch-22.
Yeah, but it's like the comics that we're reading for the show. These are written for an audience, and comics now it feels like longtime comics fans writing for themselves.
Right.
And a balance needs to be struck. Or the audience is the audience is going to age out and die.
Right.
There's a reason that, along with all the other forms of media that have come along. But there's a reason that the audience for comic books has continued to dwindle as far as in the traditional comic book.
Yes. Yeah, and plus the cost.
It's it takes 12 minutes to read a comic book these days, and something I paid $4 for. That's not cheap entertainment.
Right, you can buy a movie for $5, a lot of them.
So,
or a book, which is a lot more.
The advancement of technology and let's get things on slick paper and do all the color digitally has kind of ruined it. It's like when this is a very cheap form of entertainment. It becomes easy to like if you've got say you're an adult and you're a comics fan, and they're $1 a piece. Okay, okay, I can spend $50 and read every Marvel comic that comes out every month, or just about.
Right.
That's great. Now I know all the ins and outs. But if you were going to buy 20 comic books a month, times $4, that's $80.
That's a lot of dough. Yeah.
So.
Okay. Yeah.
But let's talk about this.
Okay.
I'm getting too rabbit holey today.
All right. So. All right. The thing, turning back to Ben Grimm, allows Johnny to escape. So it does two things. So Johnny goes into the Bowery, haven of lost souls. I love that.
And Leo Gorcey.
Yeah. Oh, I love Leo Gorcey. So it's a bunch of bums, and he finds a 20-year-old comic book. Who should be on the cover but Submariner? It's just clumsy. I'm not sure how else to do it, but I think they should have just had Submariner just come without being talked about, and then later on explain where he came from, instead of just giving this foreboding.
Yeah.
Okay, so coincidentally, there's this guy who's super strong, and he's got a beard
and doesn't remember who he is.
Right. And he beats up a bunch of bums
because they're giving him the business. They want him to demonstrate his strength, and he just wants to be left alone.
Yeah.
And so they're going to gang up and beat him up, and Johnny says, hey, you can't do that. Let me burn off his beard for no reason.
And he allows him to.
Well, and it's so weird. Why would you do that?
Yeah, and he's a particularly prickly person.
Yeah. Namor, traditionally, isn't he? Yeah. He's not exactly easygoing.
Oh, yeah. Hey, burn my beard off. Yeah.
No,
says nobody.
Right? He just stands still while he does it. Now, granted, he's not quite himself, but still, who would do that?
No, he's kind of a jerk. Go away, you puny flea.
I love that, because that's perfect Namor dialogue. But anyway, so Johnny gets the bright idea, well, it's Namor, and so I'm just going to throw him in the ocean and see what happens.
Yeah.
Like, what?
Well, he was a hero at the time.
Right.
That he knew about, but still, I would call somebody, hey, Reed, what do you think we ought to do?
Like, dumb kid, man. Yeah. Like, you're not thinking things through there.
Yeah. Reed does some funny things, looking for people, talks to a helicopter, talks to a subway, and people on the subway upside down,
right,
and freaking people out.
Yeah.
Sue walks right by them.
Namor and Johnny.
Right. And doesn't see him. And so here he goes. Johnny douses Namor. Namor recovers his memory and his strength.
And then he swears revenge. He goes and he finds Atlantis, which must be like a block away, and it's totally destroyed by atomic tests, and his people have fled. And so he comes back right back up to the surface and swears revenge on humanity. And Johnny's like, "Oh crap, look what I did." So he signals the Fantastic Four, and Reed and Sue and Ben show up in the flying bathtub, the Fantastic car, which I love.
Okay. Yeah. Oh well.
And then he explains what happens.
Yeah.
So Namor uses this big sea horn to summon up Giganto. He's a whale with legs.
He's going to destroy all life on
the surface.
And of course he starts with New York City.
Yeah.
Because that's in the contract.
Yeah. Well, and I love he's got a whale with hands and feet, because that really comes in handy in the ocean.
Oh my. Yeah, that's true. I can't think of any sea creature with hands.
Yeah.
I was thinking, there's some otters. Well,
Yeah.
otter maybe, but that's kind of not a sea.
But that's utterly ridiculous.
Yeah.
I mean, like, for such a big thing, I mean, whales have big mouths so they can swallow a whole bunch of fish, so they don't have to go grab them. Like,
Right.
But yeah, whatever. It looks cool.
Oh God, yeah. It's yeah. Do you think that we need a Kirby says? I think a monster would be great here, and because he does so well in it, and I think the joy in his drawing shows up on the page.
Sure. I mean, like, who wouldn't have fun drawing all this stuff?
Yeah, if I could, I'd be so happy, but I can't draw a straight line. All right, so they're Giganto is destroying New York City. The Fantastic Four tries to do something, and nothing helps. So Thing puts an A-bomb on his back, which is one of the greatest scenes in comic book history, I think.
Like, do we not understand how much destructive force is behind the atomic bomb?
Yeah, although people exaggerate it too. And it is massively destructive, but not as massively destructive as people think. So,
okay.
But yeah.
So anyway,
Yeah.
So Benny goes down the throat of the monster,
Yeah.
and with the bomb on his back, it's actually quite comical. But it's kind of like a Popeye type of scene, Here, let me strap this big piano to my back. Ow!
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, the old Popeye cartoons are so good.
Yeah.
Let's see. All right. So
So,
Namor's there and he's angry.
well, hang on. Back up a little bit.
Sorry.
So Ben drops the bomb off in the belly and starts the timer, and then bails, out the mouth or whatever. And it explodes and kills Giganto. Now, in the 1970s, in Oregon, in some sleepy little ocean town,
Yes.
there was a whale washed up on the ocean, and people got how we're going to get rid of, or up on the sand. People, how are we going to get rid of this whale? It's going to be gross. So they got the bright idea of, let's blow it up with dynamite, get rid of it. And there's actually news footage of the explosion. Big chunks of whale meat, rotten whale meat, landing on people, and just a horrible, disgusting spray of putrefying rot. Big bad idea, and it didn't get rid of the whale.
Yeah.
But I was thinking about that when the Giganto. I'm like, how come there aren't whale chunks? It was an atom bomb.
Maybe not strong enough atom bomb. And there's
Okay.
there's big ones and little ones apparently. So
Okay.
all right. So Namor comes and he's saying, "I got a lot. Well, you killed one, but I got a lot more sea monsters." And he mentions.
Do you wonder why he didn't just bring a whole bunch of sea monsters to begin with?
Good question.
Why did he just start with one?
Yeah. And he mentions. Here you go, monologuing again.
Well, right.
Without monologuing, I think comic books wouldn't exist. but he says, "With this horn, I'll call a lot more." And then Sue
Invisibly
yoinks
steals it away, and so but he grabs her because he can see where she is because she's holding the visible object, and he realizes it's a gal when she turns visible again, and he says, "Look, I'll spare the earth if you'll be my bride."
Yeah.
Like, wow, you move fast, Namor.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't like this actually the Sue subby thing. It's
Yeah.
sort of it's.
I do like it.
Do you?
I like the tension because I like a good romantic triangle is always excellent fodder for comics. And having the Reed have this strange rivalry with Namor, because Namor is all brain, and Reed really. Excuse me, Namor is all brawn, and Reed is the big brain.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It's like if Luthor and Superman were vying for Lois's affections.
I bet they do at one time. I don't know.
Oh, I'm sure. In fact, I'm sure I've read a story where it's an imaginary story and Lois falls for Lex. That happened.
Yeah. I just love imaginary story.
Yeah. Aren't they all?
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway,
I don't know. I don't think it works for me, but okay. So they fight, and all right. So Johnny makes this tornado,
like a firestorm.
Yeah,
And
I didn't know
hurls
he
the
could do
Giganto's
this.
corpse into the ocean and sends Namor away.
Yeah, and he says he'll be back though. So
Well, yeah.
well,
When we never saw him again.
oh man. Okay.
So on to this is the main event. This is it. We're going to talk about Fantastic Four number 5, cover dated July of 1962, and cover art penciled by Jack Kirby and inked by Joe Sinnott. And of course, this is the first appearance of Doctor Doom, the greatest supervillain in all of comics.
You can make that argument.
Yeah.
And I'd be hard pressed to say no.
I mean, Luthor and Brainiac are great, but man, it's tough to top Doctor Doom. There's a lot of great villains, but man,
he would give hell to Superman with the sorcery.
well, and it's so funny because you remember when DC did those handful of crossovers
I
in the
love
late 70s
those.
and the 80s. Well, remember Doctor Doom and the Parasite teamed up against Spidey and Superman, and I don't think Doom used any sorcery. Which is weird because Superman's vulnerable to magic. Like, duh, why would you not do that?
Maybe he didn't know.
That Superman was vulnerable to magic?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He doesn't know everything, and I don't know. Does
One would think
in the
that
movie Superman exists in Spider-Man's world? I think. Well, they mentioned there's a character called Superman in the movies. But remember, you're not Superman. You know.
Well,
Wah,
Superman
wah,
is a
wah,
big pop culture character.
Right,
I think
but,
in that context, it's, he's another pretend character, but that's just fun.
Right, but I don't think Superman exists in Spider-Man's world in comics.
No. I mean, they've done crossovers, but it's like, it works perfect because Marvel has played it up less, but Marvel and DC work on these multiverse properties. So maybe in the multiverse, pre-crisis DC, there is an Earth where these handful of stories where Marvel and DC characters interact, where they exist on the same Earth.
I'm trying to think if they did, if they knew who each other were. I think they did in the crossover.
Well, and then they played up the fact that the Daily Planet and the Daily Bugle were rival papers, and that's in that story and stuff like that. So,
okay, so he should have known because it's kind of famous that he's vulnerable to magic.
Yeah.
Doctor Doom is an intelligent guy to read up on Superman, I'm sure.
you would think. But and who knows? Maybe in on that Earth in the multiverse, Doctor Doom isn't a master of sorcery as well, just super science.
Yeah,
Because it's clear. Obviously, because it's never referred to in mainstream Marvel comics, it's another Doom on another Earth. So things just like Earth 2 is rather different than Earth 1.
Yeah. All right, that solves that problem.
Okay.
All right, we see. And this. Okay.
Oh, sorry.
cover.
Let me give the credits.
Oh.
Sorry. It's The Prisoners of Doctor Doom, written by Stan Lee, and with our art penciled by Jack Kirby and inked by Joe Sinnott. Go ahead. Go.
All right, cool cover. We see 3 of the Fantastic Four without air and about to die, and Doctor Doom is looking.
And I like how it's like we're seeing he's like a screen or a projection he's showing of himself in his control room, and I like that a lot.
Yeah.
And then the splash panel really harkens back to like Golden Age Jack Kirby type splash panels. I would see this on a Golden Age Cap or a Golden Age Sandman story. It looks right at home in that period.
Yeah, he's playing chess with Fantastic Four.
Yeah, and then he's got a vulture there with him.
And a book called Demons and a book called Science and Sorcery.
Yeah.
So he, first page, hey, I've heard of the Fantastic Four, and now I got to defeat them. So,
okay.
It's sort of
they get right to it.
Yeah, he just doesn't like them. He wants to beat them, and then that's it. It's sort of.
I mean, we build up on it a little more, even in this story, but yeah. We are like, well, why does he want to go get the Fantastic Four? We'll learn throughout the story. That's a great draw in. Mm-hmm. And what an excellent splash panel. Like, wow, this guy looks really menacing. So
yeah, he does. Johnny's reading a Hulk comic.
It's the very first issue of the Hulk, and it's funny because this is, this is the second reference to Marvel comic books existing in the Marvel universe. The other one's I think is number 2 with the Skrulls. They showed some issues of like Tales of Suspense or whatever with monsters and things, Journey into Mystery.
And they mentioned the Submariner comics as well.
Right. So, but they in the Silver Age, and then later on it would mention that like the superhero characters in the Marvel universe appear in comic books based on their adventures also. Mm-hmm. And then in DC they would establish in the Silver Age that the Adventures of Golden Age heroes on Earth 2 are comic book stories on Earth 1. So.
Cool. All right. Johnny's reading the Hulk comic book, and it says, oh, you look like the Hulk there, Thing. And Thing gets mad, and they sort of fight, and... okay. But all of a sudden, a net is put over the Baxter building. And in a very cool helicopter, Doom is floating around and monologuing. All right, so Reed knows who he is. He actually met him, and he was a pseudonym called Doom, Victor Von Doom, and he dabbled in the black arts, burned his face up.
Yeah.
And supposedly disappeared, but now here he is back again. Let's see.
Anyway, he's attacking the Fantastic Four.
Right.
In the Doomcopter.
Yeah.
Or whatever.
Mm-hmm. It's electrified, net. No one can get out of it except for Sue.
Yeah. So he's captured them and takes them back to his castle. Now, this is a castle he has in the Adirondacks. He's not going to Latveria.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because it's only a few minutes away from the Baxter
building. A helicopter can only go so far. So,
right. Or so fast.
Yeah. It's wasn't Doom lucky that he had a cool name as a kid, so he didn't have to change it when he turned evil.
So it's like Dr. Milquetoast, like nobody would take him seriously. But yeah, it's perfect.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So he's Doom at his Doom's castle. He's holding Sue hostage, and he has a task he wants to set the Fantastic Four
which is to go back in time and steal Blackbeard's treasure. Okay.
It seems kind of dumb because he's a king of a country. You'd think he would be able to, and he's a master of super science. He would be able to amass wealth on his own. But he wants Blackbeard's treasure because there's a legend that there were mystical gems with magic properties that were from Merlin in the chest.
Yeah. Why didn't he just send a heavily armed group of guys to do it?
Or why didn't he send his robots?
Yeah. Or why didn't he do it himself? That'd be kind of cool.
I think it's because he can't control the platform.
Yeah. And he wouldn't have to wouldn't trust anybody to do so.
Well, right, and he doesn't have to dirty his hands with it. Yeah. But he can't control the platform from... He can send somebody, but he needs to be able to there outside of it to operate it, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So they're sent back into...
Ben and Reed and Johnny.
Yeah. Let's see. I guess it's 1600s.
I guess
late, maybe early 17th. Or 18th century. I don't know. All right. So they steal some clothes from some people. The Thing just get out of here, and they run.
Luckily, there's a false beard in there for some reason that he's able to put on and make it disguise.
Yeah, probably it's used. Although you're trying to hide, so you put a beard on. Although. Everyone had beards anyway, because who shaved on a ship?
Right.
right. So there's this. They go to a tavern, and this witch. That's what they call her. Poisons their drinks and puts.
It would be the early 1700s.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking it up. Looking Blackbeard up on the Google.
And they pass out, and they're shanghaied into this ship. And this happened all the time, actually.
Yeah.
The British Navy did this.
Sure.
Yeah. So they wake up, and they get the captain starts yelling at them, and then Thing, as
he is wont to do,
does thingly things and beats the crap out of them.
and then Reed and Johnny get into the act too, and so they all the pirates think they're like enchanted or something, and so they follow them, and then they're attacked by another ship.
Mm-hmm. And Reed says, "Oh, it's loaded with treasure." And how did you know? And
it's in the script.
Okay, yeah, that's about. All right, so they battle the other ship. They win, and really nice, pirate fighting.
So they get Blackbeard's. They get the treasure, and then Ben decides, "I'm not going back. I like being a pirate."
You can't blame him.
No, I can't. But then a typhoon hits the ship, and then they're all washed up ashore, and they have the treasure chest, and Ben apologizes.
All right.
Here's where this doesn't really work. They're like, "Oh, Ben, you were the inspiration for the Legend of Blackbeard," but we know William Teach or Edward Teach was a real guy. It's not like King Arthur, where nobody knows if he was a real guy or not.
Mm-hmm.
And he had recorded deeds and things he did, so it's just kind of baloney. And what, you traveled back in time for 2 days, and a legend is born? No.
Yeah. You see a legend, but there's a bunch of... Blackbeard died hard. I think he shot about 20 times and stabbed, and it's just incredible. But
I think that you're thinking of Rasputin. But I mean, Rasputin...
No. I am talking about Blackbeard, too.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Rasputin, even harder to kill than Blackbeard, but...
Yeah.
Okay, so, alright. They tricked Doom by giving the treasure out to the shipmates, and then putting chains in it because he wanted the treasure chest.
Yeah, so phrasing.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah, that's not nice to read, but then Dr. Doom's not nice, so...
Well, if he got the magic's gems or whatever, he would conquer the world. So, of course, they got to trick him.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of reminds me of the Heroes of Myth, where they would, trick a guy or whatever, or from like a European fairy tales.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So they get back. Dr. Doom is ticked off because he was tricked, and
Ben says, "Yeah, well, what are you going to do about it?" And hits him, and it turns out it's a robot. Then Dr. Doom appears on a projection, and he's somewhere else anyway.
Yeah. So he seals it off. They can't breathe. Sue touches this one cutoff switch to short circuit the mechanism. So Dr. Doom has this one button that all it does is short circuit his mechanism.
Right.
Oh well. So she saves the boys, and that's pretty cool. So they escape, and Dr. Doom runs, and he's got a rocket pack on, so he's faster than Johnny. And that's the end of the story. Not a bad story. I've read this before, but I enjoyed it. So.
Yeah. I dig it. Great introduction to what, of course, would be like their greatest enemy. So I almost said enemy.
Okay.
Okay, so on to Fantastic Four number 6, cover dated September of 1962. Cover art by Jack Kirby and Dick Ayers. And the story is called Captives of the Deadly Duo, written by Stan Lee, penciled by Jack Kirby, and inked by Dick Ayers, with a few panels on, I think, pages 3 and 4, inked by Joe Sinnott. So, but anyway.
Okay. All right. No, Fantastic Four is showing off, and Sue's showing off in front of people. So
Yeah.
we get to see the Baxter Building. We see another floor, I think, than we did the first time.
Yeah, I think this cutaway is a better version. Although we still have the completely useless or needless helicopter.
Yeah,
It's totally superfluous when they have the pogo plane and the Fantastic Car.
right. Yeah, I'm not
It's
sure.
like, what do they want to take the helicopter when it's raining? I don't get why.
Is there something about the Fantastic Car that has a weakness or something that we don't know?
It hovers like that's, and it's very maneuverable. You can get fly it around in the city.
Yeah.
Like more maneuverable than a helicopter.
And helicopters, and there's problems with it. Is that there's this huge wind. You got this huge blade that.
Yeah.
And
It's like if Batman also had a Flintstones car just for the hell.
yeah.
Like what?
Or an old pickup truck.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think, and you saw this in the shows in the 70s. Is wow, helicopters are cool because hardly anyone's seen them until then, and there's a lot of Vietnam vets who could fly them. So they're putting every single TV show had a helicopter.
Well, because it's a great piece of technology that's cool looking, and it's actually kind of cheap to rent for a show or whatever. There was a show in the 80s, Airwolf. It was just a fancy helicopter, but it was a big hit show. I love the music from that show.
Yeah, that's cool. And Ernest Borgnine and
Jan Michael Vincent.
Yeah, before he turned crazy.
Yeah, well, I think he was drinking really hard even then. But yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway.
All right. So our crew get together, and see, they're just
dinking around the Baxter Building.
Oh, there's something from the Clancy Street
Yancey Street
Yancey Street Clan, and the thing puts their letter into, or he writes a letter and puts it in a titanium bar, and he twists it so they can't.
No, that's not it.
It's not.
They write him a nasty letter.
Yeah.
He says, "All right, I got this steel plate here. I'm going to fold it up letter size and send it to him." And that he puts a note on that.
Oh, okay.
But yeah.
But so, and when they can unroll it, he'll talk to them. So.
Yeah. So, but Ben's rivalry with the Yancey Street Gang will go on and on.
And this is the beginning of it.
Yeah. So we cut to Namor.
Yeah, he was playing with dolphins.
Of course.
Yep.
He's having a very Aquaman day.
Indeed.
Yeah.
And here comes Dr. Doom.
Yeah.
And his
now,
rocket
how cool
plane.
is that? We just saw him last issue, and here he's back already.
Mm-hmm.
And did I give the name of this story? I didn't give the name of this story. It's called Captives of the Deadly Duo, who, of course, are Namor and Dr. Doom. So, yeah.
Yeah, so they meet, and he says, hey, we'll start a fight against the Fantastic
Yeah,
Four.
Doom is pretty persuasive, and so, yeah, they're going to go and attack the FF.
Mm-hmm. So he explains he has this grabber, and it's like a shape of a tin can, and you put it on anything, and it'll lift it up.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
You see, Dr. Doom sees the picture of Sue Storm
in Namor's lair or whatever,
Yeah.
and gives him a bunch of grief about it.
Yeah. So they decide. Let's see. They look at thinking about the atomic bombs against the city. Am I wrong that atomic bombs didn't destroy Namor City, or is they found out later, or is
I think his people fled somewhere else. He finds them later.
Yeah.
It's not important right now.
All right.
Okay, it's motivation for right now.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so they send Submariner is going to go to Baxter Building, going to hide the grabber.
Yeah, but he's under the pretense of seeking friendship or a truce between the Fantastic Four. Mm-hmm. He's got the components of the grabber disassembled and hidden in his belt buckle. Mm-hmm. And so he goes in and assembles it, and then he goes and stalls for time with the FF. And of course, they're not sure about it. Also, there's a little plot point where Johnny finds a picture of Namor that Sue had, and he burns it up, and they have a big fight about it.
Yeah.
And then Namor shows up right after that.
And the Thing wants to beat up Namor, but then he stopped. So, Johnny doesn't like him either. He burns a hole around Namor's feet.
So that he'll fall through the floor. But Namor can fly.
Yeah.
Duh.
Yeah. So, the building is lifted up
Yeah.
with Namor inside and the Fantastic Four.
Yeah.
And this wasn't part of Namor's plan as he
Yeah.
understood it.
Right. Doom reveals that he has used Namor. He's like, he was going to conquer the world. He's going to get rid of the people who could stand in his way the most. The Fantastic Four and Namor.
That's a plausible plan. It's really a nasty move.
Well, yeah.
Doom, but Doom's
But I
a
think
villain.
these two issues really solidify, like, and right off the bat, like, how ruthless and diabolical Doctor Doom is.
So the whole building is lifted up because of the grabber, and
It's going to go into outer space, and then they'll all suffocate and die.
yeah.
So they're in the upper atmosphere now.
yeah. They put on spacesuits. Johnny goes out and says, "Whoops! I forgot there's no air in space." For crying out loud!
He's a dumb kid.
Yeah. I think I knew that when I was 8.
Well, whatever. But you were 8 in what year?
About 8 years after this was done, I think.
Okay, well,
I must have read the comic book.
you have to remember, this is before the moonshot. People have barely gotten into space. Not everybody knows all the stuff.
Yeah.
So, anyway.
All right, so they have a heck of a time getting to Doctor Doom. But finally, they just...
So the Fantastic Four can't reach him. And then Namor says, I'm going to go.
And go! And go!
Yeah. He's attacks Doom's ship.
Yep. And he is... there is a magnetic field that he can get off the ship, so he says, "Oh, I'll just go through the ship." So-
Right. So, Namor confronts Doom.
And he shocks, uses electricity, and so...
Doom tries to shock Namor. Namor absorbs it and redirects it back at him,
Right.
which is cool.
Yeah. So Doom gets out of his rocket ship, and he lands on an asteroid, and then is taken off into outer space.
Right.
How in the world does he get back?
I don't know. We'll find out in probably a few issues when Doom comes back. But yeah. So Namor saved the day. The Fantastic Four were gonna die.
Right.
So how interesting is that? The heroes, the lead characters in this book, they failed.
Yeah, that is good. Yeah. I like that. Yeah, failure. If you always win, it gets boring.
Well, right, and the fact that like their enemy had to pull them out of it because all their powers were for naught. Doom's plan was a sound one, except for Doom didn't counter or reckon on the abilities of Namor to defeat him.
Yep.
He thought Namor was going to be easy pickings like the FF.
Yeah, he just went a bridge too far, so to speak, or something. Yeah.
So, pretty cool.
Yep. It was.
And of course, Namor, once they get back to Earth, he bails again.
Yeah. That's cool.
On to Fantastic Four number 7, which is cover dated October of 1962. Cover art by Jack Kirby. And the story is called Prisoners of Kurgo, Master of Planet X. Written by Stan Lee, penciled by Jack Kirby, and inked by Dick Ayers. Now, in this cover, we see a giant wadded poster featuring the Fantastic Four, wanted dead or alive, and a crowd all hating the Fantastic Four, and an alien spaceship appearing.
Yeah. Okay. Cool splash panel with
Kurgo.
Kurgo on Planet X. I think I ought to name my planet.
Right. Well, Planet X is dramatic, and it's mining the tropes of pulp science fiction and 50s science fiction movies.
Yeah.
It's got some heritage, to it.
Yeah.
So.
That is so cool.
Yeah. So Kurgo is like this hairy little asshole who rules this planet as a dictator.
Massive head.
Yeah.
And a really cool pad.
Yeah.
And a robot of helpers. Man, that'd be cool.
Yeah.
That C-3PO Here, sir. Here's your,
And his robot looks kind of like Gort from The Day the Earth Stood Still, only big and hulking.
Yeah.
More so,
All right, so Planet X is being threatened by this asteroid. It's going to hit them. So he decides to go get help by getting the Fantastic Four to come and help. It's a convoluted plot. It's really cool, but he sends a spaceship down with his robot, like Gort.
Mm-hmm.
And then we see the Fantastic Four getting ready to go to Washington for to talk to Congress, and none of them want to do it.
Right, they don't want to go to this dinner. Yeah.
Let's see. Johnny thinks he'll make a fool of himself giving a speech.
Yep.
And he says, "Well, I'll make a fool of myself, then I'll burst into flame." And then the Thing thinks that somebody will take off his hat, and then freak out. Mm-hmm. And then he'll freak out and break something.
Yeah. Well, he doesn't want to be like a sideshow.
Right. And Sue thinks, and Sue is the same way. She thinks that someone will make a crack or something like that, and then she'll get embarrassed and disappear.
Right. And really, it's like Reed recognizes the importance diplomatically. They are now world figures, and they need to be, like, hey, this is a trust-earning exercise, and they need to go and do this thing. Mm-hmm. But they're reluctant to do it.
Yeah. I wouldn't want to do it myself. Okay. All right, so Johnny takes a shower. The Thing comes and turns his heat on really high on the water, and
so that creates a bunch of steam.
Yeah.
Which is really weird because we see Johnny going, why would he flame on in the shower?
Right.
And we've seen him in like later comics where he gets doused with water and he's all wet and he can't flame on.
Oh, yeah. Because he has to have a weakness of some sort.
Yeah. And, he can only flame on for a certain length of time, so.
Yeah. Plus, but he can handle flame, atomic flame, and all this, but he cannot handle a hot shower.
Yeah, it's weird. So, anyway.
All right, so steam gets everywhere, so they're trying to find out what's going on, and you have Ree going through a vent, and he turns two-dimensional.
Right.
Yeah, so everyone's arguing, but you still got to go to that dinner.
So, but they go to the dinner, and flying by Earth at that time is Kurgo's robot flying by a satellite, and he broadcasts like waves to make everyone hate the Fantastic Four. Yeah,
and it happens. They're giving Reed this big trophy, which really looks cool, and it says, "You're all evil," and so we see the little vignettes of people
throughout the world just turning hateful and
now, how can you tell the difference? So
right. It's interesting because this kind of trope will be played up much later with the Fantastic Four's villain, the Psycho Man. He was from the Microverse or whatever, and he had controlled emotions and stuff too.
Yeah. So everyone, the Fantastic Four runs because they don't want to beat up congressmen.
Right.
And let's see. The Thing takes a wall, lifts it up, gets behind the wall, and puts it back down, which is kind of neat.
Yeah, it's pretty humorous, actually. But yeah. So anyway, I think then they're contacted by the alien robot, and he explains what's happening.
Right.
Now, what is the threat that they're going to leave Earth like this and people just rioting amongst themselves unless they come to Planet X and solve this problem that he hasn't spelled out for them?
Yeah.
So they go. Yeah. What else? What are they going to do?
Yeah. The robot has this portable TV, which is so awesome. I wish I had that.
And it's circular. The screen is circular. Which I'm sure in science fiction, we think, oh yeah, a circular view screen, that makes more sense for the future,
Yeah. I wonder how that would be in real life. I mean, of course, everything's made rectangular or square now, but if you film things in the circular thing, would that be better, worse, make no difference? I don't know.
Yeah.
the robot's cool. It is awesome. So it's just super big and massive, and it's just I don't know, but it's cool. The robot explains to them what's going to happen to them. They won't be able to go anywhere. They're going to figure out how to get rid of the torch with fire extinguishers. They're going to put Reed in a bubble. And they're going to have these, what is this? Harness electric energy will keep the thing powerless. And they'll put a invisible girl will have a radioactive armband. So and everyone will know where she's at.
Right. So, okay.
That's kind of cool.
This is like the threats, basically, against them. So they
Yeah,
go
this
to
is
Planet
what this
X.
is what will happen to you by your own people if you don't go to Planet X.
Right.
So they go to Planet X, and they meet. They meet
Kurgo.
Kurgo's really ugly. So he's just describing what's going to happen when
This other planet hits his.
yeah.
It's going to destroy everything. So they only have a couple of spaceships. They're not really space explorers, but they're highly advanced scientifically.
Yeah.
So, but he needs Reed or the Fantastic Four to solve the problem. How can my people escape?
Right.
So they've got to save, 6 billion people, or they will be doomed.
Right. Yeah. They fight a little bit. Thing hits the robot. Doesn't do a dang thing to it.
Yeah.
Johnny's flame doesn't do anything. So Sue says just give up on it.
Yeah. So it's interesting that their powers, even though they're great, prove ineffectual. And Reed's mind is the great superpower that solves the problem.
Right.
And we'll see that again and again, really.
Yep.
Which I like that. It's the brute strength isn't enough. You got to have a plan. You have to be clever.
Yeah.
And the overall message there is a very good one, I think. But anyway, Reed comes up with a way, like, look, we can shrink everybody and get them into one spaceship.
Right. And because 5 billion people the size of what?
Ants or whatever, or microbes.
They're about an inch tall.
Yeah.
So you can get a lot of those in a big spaceship.
Yeah. But here's the thing. If you he releases a gas globally, and that shrinks everybody down, but then they would relatively be miles and miles away from the spaceship. How would they get there? You know what I'm saying?
I guess there's some kind of they have some kind of transportation system.
must,
I guess.
okay.
It's an advanced society, so,
Man. But anyway, so they all load up on the spaceship, and they say, okay, Reed says, okay, Kurgo, here's the antidote canister, so for when you get to the other planet, you can re-enlarge yourselves. And Reed, knowing that Kurgo would just save the antidote for himself, he makes it so big, Kurgo can't really carry it, and Kurgo gets left behind on the planet while his people
I didn't even think of that part.
But
Yeah.
the big reveal is there was no antidote.
That made me gasp.
Yeah.
That's one of the coolest, cleverest things ever. I didn't even think about the antidote
But he
being so
saved
big.
these people, and not because it's like, well, okay, yeah, they were going to be, their lives would be saved, but they were still going to be ruled by this evil despot. Oh, but he saved them from them by tricking the guy into staying on their home world and dying.
Yep, that was awesome.
Yeah, and they take the other spaceship and go back to Earth. So I guess now they have a spaceship,
Yep.
which we never see.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, what? Yeah. Why not use that spaceship?
Because I don't think I've ever heard them. I mean, Reed built a spaceship later, but I don't think it's like, well, let's use Kurgo's spaceship from, that one time.
Yeah. I mean, Batman still has that big penny.
Right.
And Superman has everything. Here's a button from Luthor's coat.
Right.
Yeah. Man, that was awesome. I didn't even think about it being so big and heavy that he's having trouble moving it.
Yeah.
That is,
I didn't until just now, but it had to be something that would delay him. And so those people, of course, take off without him because what an opportunity, right?
Yeah. And he was definitely not going to give anyone else the
antidote.
Antidote.
And he would have ruled them like he would have been a worse dictator than he had been before.
Yeah, although little bitty people, how are you going to stop them from attacking you?
I don't know.
I mean, it's hard not to kill fire ants. You know?
No, I think the answer is comics,
Yeah.
But
But that was awesome. This is some very good issues,
yeah,
and this is why Fantastic Four is popular.
yeah. And I think it's just upward from here. I think the first few issues are really kind of clumsy, and then then they really get going, and the momentum just is constantly building. It's
I can't read. I cannot wait to read more and to see you people in the funny pages.